Love lifted us. It covers a lot of things. And we're so happy that we're able to love and show our love. It's not so much in just what you say, but it's about what you do. God doesn't give us what we can handle. God helps us handle what we give it. That's a wonderful thing. He helps us with what. See, sometimes you ask for stuff you're not able to handle. You better be careful what you ask from God, because you got to be ready to receive it and do something with whatever God is giving you. But God lets us handle what we're given, whether it's your family. Most parents who are first-time parents, you kind of winging it. And some stuff you do know, but you're winging it. You don't come with a manual of how to raise your children. And your children will show you that you don't know as much as you think you know. And let them continue to grow. You're going to learn more and more and more. But God will give us what we need to take care of those children if we but just listen and follow his rules. Sometimes the world will mandate how you raise your children, far different from what the Bible tells you. But if you stick with the book, the Bible says that the training that comes from the book with those children, they won't depart from it. They'll always remember and come back. Don't mean that your child's going to be wayward, but it's that they're going to remember, and it'll bring them back like it did the prodigal son. I want to ask you a question here, and you can answer. You won't go to hell if you answer during the church. Okay? Some of you think you can't say nothing. Okay, listen. What you know about the prodigal son? Not the prodigal son, but the Ethiopian eunuch. Yeah. Tell me something about the Ethiopian eunuch. You can tell me. You don't want to say nothing now. Don't be wrong. You're going to be on national TV. What about the Ethiopian eunuch? You better say something to church. They're looking to see if you know what you know. He wanted to know how to be saved. Who saved him? Who helped him? Come on, don't tell me you talk about you. Who saved? Who helped him? Who stood by the chariot? Who helped him? Philip. Ooh, y'all. Ooh, maybe we have to study this next week or something. Philip. Where were they? They went on no road to Damascus. On the road back to Ethiopia. What did happen? What happened to the Ethiopian eunuch? Eventually, the great thing that happened to him. He was baptized. Oh my goodness. He worked for the court of Queen Candace, did he not? You know about it, right? That story's pretty familiar with you, right? Yeah. See, y'all just a little shy this morning. Nobody don't want to be wrong, brother. Well, guess what? I'm not even talking about that eunuch. I'm talking about the other Ethiopian eunuch. And right about now, you're saying, what? There's another one? Yes, there was another one. Matter of fact, this one we're going to talk about was the first one. This Ethiopian eunuch, we're going to read about in Jeremiah 38, verses 7 through 13. But that's the first Ethiopian eunuch. And I bet you didn't know about him. But we're going to learn a little bit about this guy. I don't know why we don't know about him. He did something that was very kind and gentle back in his day that he didn't have to do when he helped the weeping prophet Jeremiah. But somehow history calls him the other guy. Why? Because we know more about the eunuch in chapter 8 than we know about this guy. But yet he's written into the Bible for all posterity, for all history. But why is it that we look over this man who was a man of God? Ebed Melech, the king's servant. Oh yeah, he's written there. But we forget about him. We don't even read about him. But he's there between the scriptures. And he's there in the book of Jeremiah. But he's the first Ethiopian eunuch. Let's read a little bit about him, so we'll understand a little bit more about this guy here. it says that now Ebed Malik, the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs who was in the king's house. See, he's working for the king, whether he's working for the king by force, or he's working for the king as a slave servant, or he's just working for the king. But he's there to serve the house of the king, okay? Now, he heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon. And when the king was sitting at the gate of Benjamin, Ebed Malik went out of the king's house and spoke to the king, saying, "My lord the king, these men have done evil in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet, whom they have cast into the dungeon, and he is likely to die from hunger in the place where he is, for there is no more bread in the city." Then the king commanded Ebed Malik, the Ethiopian, saying, "Take from here 30 men with you, and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the dungeon before he dies." So Ebed Malik took the men with him and went into the house of the king under the treasury, and took from there old clothes and old rags, and let them down by ropes into the dungeon to Jeremiah. Then Ebed Malik, the Ethiopian, I like the way it keeps saying that. It just don't say his name. They keep saying he's the Ethiopian, okay? And he said to Jeremiah, "Please put these old clothes and rags under your armpits, under the ropes." And Jeremiah did so. So they pulled Jeremiah up with ropes and lifted him out of the dungeon. And Jeremiah remained in the court of the prisons instead of dying in that hole, that cistern that they put him in, all because this guy refused to mind his own business. And he's now written into the history of the Bible, but somehow we forgot about this guy, or we didn't read about him. But this is the first Ethiopian eunuch. Now let's talk about the history of what was going on here that comprises the chapters 38 and 37 and 38. Babylon was being besieged by the city of Jerusalem. Babylon had came in to destroy the city of Jerusalem. Now the Bible tells us that the people in Jerusalem did not listen to the prophet Jeremiah. They didn't listen to the prophet who was bringing them word from Jeremiah, the king, and nobody in that city wasn't listening. When they say wasn't listening, they weren't being obedient to the word of God. And when they're not obedient to the word of God, well, God have other people to deal with you. So what was happening was God was having the city besieged by the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, the Chaldeans, and they were about to destroy the city. And so Babylon received news that Pharaoh had sent his army, the Egyptian army, to help Jerusalem. So when they sent the Egyptian army, and they temporarily lifted the siege, because when Babylon saw that the army was coming, they withdrew and went back home. But when Egypt, the army of Egypt was there, they too stopped and went back to their own place. So when they stopped coming to Egypt, or to coming to Jerusalem to help Jerusalem, the Babylonians turned back around and began to destroy Jerusalem. Okay, now here Jeremiah is arrested and charged with being a traitor, because he tells them, look, the Babylonians are coming. He tells the king, they're coming. You guys have turned your back on God. Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. Okay, no, don't care how you look at it. It's going to be destroyed. I don't care if all of the Babylonians are destroyed and all of their wounded men are in the tent. Those wounded men will come out of that tent and destroy Jerusalem. So Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. He said, now what I need from you to do, king, is to go ahead and turn yourself over to the Babylonian king in Babylonia, and you're going to be spared. But if you don't, They're going to come in. They're going to destroy Jerusalem anyway, because if you go back and look into the history of time, Jerusalem was destroyed. But they're going to kill you too. They're not going to save you. I remember when Colin Powell, when he was alive and he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they were getting ready to invade Baby Doc over there in what's that place he was at? Baby Doc in Haiti. Yeah, in Haiti. And he said, listen, you need to turn yourself in. Y'all need to give up. We're coming. He says, now, you give yourself up, we'll protect you and everything, and your regime is going to fall anyway. He says, but now, if you don't give up and we come in, we're not going to save you. When we come in, we're going to kill you. So it's now or never to give yourself up. That's the same scenario that was happening with the king. Give up now, you'll be spared. But if you don't, you're going to be killed. You're not going to save Jerusalem, no matter what you do. But you can save yourself. Now, the reason why he was arrested is because he was telling the king this. People heard it and said that he was frightening the people of Jerusalem. He was frightening the army, the soldiers of Jerusalem. And this kind of stuff had to be stopped because they'd be afraid to fight the Babylonians. So they took him, arrested him, and put him in a house that was converted into a jail. And there he stayed. Now, word got back to the king Zedekiah that, he was put in jail, and he came and talked to him again. And he told him the same thing. He told him that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. You got to save yourself, give up. God said it's going to be destroyed. They're supposed to be punished. Some people heard him say it again and said, you know what? He tried to go home to Benjamin to get his stuff. And so what they thought he was doing was trying to escape to Babylonia. But he wasn't. He was just trying to pick up his goods. And so they said he's trying to flee to the enemy because he knows they're coming. So they had him arrested again and put into a cistern, a hole in the ground, which was a well. It was empty. It didn't have any water in it. But it had mud. So when they lowered him down, he sank into the mud. And this is where we see Ebed-Melech come to Jeremiah's defense. Now, he's minding his own business. He keeps calling him the Ethiopian. He's not a Jew. This shouldn't even involve him. Let you notice, sometimes there's some good people around. They're good people. They're good people, and I'm going to say this, that's outside of the Church of Christ. All the good people are not in here. There's some people in the churches of Christ who are some bad people, okay? So, but he was minding his own business, but he came to Jeremiah's defense. And so this guy, he's put in his Bible because there's some practical lessons that we can learn from this Ethiopian eunuch who was just minding his own business. He didn't have to help at all. He knew the difference between right and wrong. Some of us know, but we could care less. Listen, verse 38, verse 9 says that my Lord the king, he goes to the king, which is none of his business. He's supposed to be taking care of my household, okay? But he goes to the king and says that they've done evil in all that they've done to Jeremiah the prophet. He knew about Jeremiah. He's not supposed to be worshiping Jeremiah and the Jews and their God, but he sees a wrong that's being done. And he goes to the king. They have cast into the dungeon, and he is likely to die from the hunger in the place where he is, for there is no more bread in the city. And the king had put him in the inner court at one time and told him, this will be your prison, and they will feed you bread every day from the market until there is no bread. But now they put him in the cistern, and he says there's no bread in the city, and this guy is not going to just be in prison. He's going to die there. He's going to die. He cares. The eunuch told the king they acted wickedly. People are acting wicked all around us. But the thing is, what will you do about it? See, if he had not mind his own business in the face of someone being mistreated, we would not have known anything further about the weeping prophet Jeremiah. But all because this man saw a wrong and tried to right it. Too many times we're involved with ourselves. And we don't want to help people around us, even when we see that there's a wrong that's being done. Now, I've never been to New York, but it says that if you go there, people don't have that southern hospitality that you have right here. We speak to one another. You speak to them, I've heard, and I've heard this from New Yorkers who said when you speak to them, they want to know what you want while you're bothering them. You see them on the street. Well, hey, how you doing? Like, what you want? But it's hospitable for us to say good morning. See, we think you're crossed if you pass by us and walk past us and don't say good morning or shake your hand. But he was minding, the people mind their own business sometimes when people are being mistreated and we don't say a word. And that's true. So much true, they had this show that they put out called What Would You Do? You may have seen it. The host, John Quinones, and they would do something in front of you, hoping that people will respond. If they do something to someone and it wasn't right, who's going to respond? And they show that show, and a lot of times people just walk around the incident. They don't say nothing. They mind their own business. There's nobody on a white horse is going to come and save you no more in this time and day. Only some people will step up and say, no, that's wrong. Stop it. There are too many TikToks out there that I see where people are being knocked down and beaten while other people are standing around filming it. I hate it when I see women out there being beat up by men and you actually got some people filming it instead of intervening and helping the woman. It's going to be me. If I ever see it happen, I'm going to intervene. It might cost me my life, but I'm not going to stand there and see a woman get beat down by a man. I don't care if he's a midget. You don't beat up on a woman. Yeah, and then we got the nerve to want to film it. The Ethiopian Eunuch wasn't filming nothing. He saw it wrong. I can't physically go and do it myself and pull this man out, but I know where I can get some help because this is wrong. How much wrong have you seen and just walk past it? Because you know what they say? Because I don't want to get involved. I don't want my name out there. I don't care. Put my name out there. Let me tell you, spell it right so they can see it. Now I'm going to get death threats and all that. I'm going to die someday anyway, but I want to die doing the right things. What if Jesus was afraid? Oh, he was facing a death that he knew was going to be horrible. What if he said, I ain't dying for these old people because ain't nothing going to change after I die. I ain't dying. I'm scared. But Jesus saw that a wrong was happening in this world. He says, I looked and I saw people who were running around like sheep, who didn't even have a shepherd. There was nobody leading them. And everything that was being led to the slaughter. I'm coming to help. Here I am, Lord. What do you say? Send me. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid. See, some of us are too afraid to say something on the job when we see that somebody needs God. See, if we said it enough, there won't be no empty seats here of the lost who have got saved. Because I know there are millions upon millions out there who need to be saved. So there's no shortage of people that need to be in this church if we but just open our mouth. See, those people are like people who are in a burning building and we know they need to be saved, but we just walk on by. The fire department will be here soon when you could just go in there and take them out. But we don't want to get all smudged with dust and soot, and we just walk on by and say, it's not my problem. It's your problem. Because God's going to bring back the very instance of that person. Now, you know they needed saved. You knew it in your mind when you passed by him. He's going to bring up that same old picture at the judgment day. And he says, see, you walked straight on by and you didn't say nothing. But I don't want to be fussed at until we leave them alone. You know, speak it. The very people you think that won't be a Christian turn out to be a Christian. Now you don't say nothing. And I hope that those people that you didn't say anything to at the judgment day, oh, all of them would turn around and say, but he didn't say anything to me about you. Do you not believe that there's some people who don't know about Jesus? The Lord says he'll be back when everybody knows or who have had the opportunity. And you say, well, everybody should know. But guess what? There were places where people were silent. The word of God was silent in the Bible, and people didn't know God because nobody told them. The book wasn't written. It was an oral history about God, and people stopped talking. It said there was a time when there's a new generation and they didn't know God because nobody talked about him. There are people who don't know about God, and God says it's our job to not just mind our own business, to go out there and help people. What would you do? Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. They did that man wickedly. He was a just man, but they did him wicked. He was the man of God. The Bible says that's why I'm beseeching this city, because they wouldn't listen to him. And they're not listening to us now. What God calls an abomination, we call gay. He said that's an abomination. Romans 1:26. Remember, he says what God calls evil, men are calling it good now. He says in Romans 1:26-27, he says, because of this, God gave them over to shameful lust. He said, well, are you advocating against homosexuality and all of the little letters that come here? No, I'm not. God did it. I'm just referencing what he says. He says, even their women. See, man, you don't have it exclusively. Women exchange natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandon. Listen, when they tell you, say, no, it's not a shame for us to love one another. You know, it's normal. The Bible says it's not natural. He said you abandon natural relations. That's natural with women. And we're inflamed with lust for one another. You know something is wrong when men get inflamed for one another lustfully. You're living in a world that's wicked. But see, we don't want to tell nobody this. We don't want to mind our own business. But you got to go and don't mind your own business and tell people it's wrong for you, Steve and Jim, to be married to one another. Drop it off in their lap. God checks you off, says, I got you. And they can do with it whatever they want. And receiveth in themselves the due penalty for their error. People are watching this. You know what? And I tell you right now, James, some of them going to drop off. They ain't going to want to hear me no more. But that's okay. Because it's the people who own here, they ain't going to be listening. They want to listen to the truth. And I'm not going to give them a lie. Taking innocent life. We call that pro-choice. It's my own body. Yeah, it's your own body. You can't do everything you want to do with it, though. Because it's not yours. It belongs to God. And you say, it's my own choice. Yeah, you know what? Well, then don't be involved in other people by having a pregnancy that you don't want. Proverbs 6:17. There are 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, that's a prideful look. A lying tongue, and hands that shed what? Innocent blood. Are you advocating? No, I'm not. I'm just saying what he says. That's an innocent blood. Child, a little baby or a fetus ain't never done nothing to me. You don't hear about fetuses out there having an army and causing a war. That's innocent blood. They don't have a say-so in whether they're going to be born or not. Innocent blood. The rejection of God now is called Oh, there's scientific fact. Scientific fact. Romans 1 verses 20 through 22. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen. See, that's why man can't get away with it. He says even God's invisible qualities show that he is alive. He's here. He's not even going to get you for the things that you see that you should obey him for. He says the invisible qualities. Well, what you're talking about, preacher, what's invisible? You ain't never seen air that you breathe. Well, preacher, I don't know. Hold your nose, hold your mouth. That's his invisible quality. And guess what? You take your hand away, you know what? That shows you need God. That's called the air that you breathe. Invisible quality. You need a powerful microscope to see atoms and protons and you know, and things like that. That's invisible to your eyes. It's there, but God says that's just like me. I'm here. The invisible qualities will get you going to hell. His eternal power and divine nature, listen, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are what? Our excuse. The stuff that I made, you didn't make it. These pews, oh, so company down there made the pews. You made the pews out of what? Stuff that God gave you. The clothes you wear, stuff that God gave you. The little underwear that say Fruit of the Loom, that's cotton, that's that cotton God made. Yeah, everything you put your feet in, you walk on. God made all this. That's what he's talking about. The things that you understand that have been made. For although they knew God, see, this is where you're going to go to hell from, because you knew God. You know. He said, you're not ignorant about this. You know. You understand. You know. They neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. He's just another person, whatever. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, he said, those people out there walking with the little rainbows and the little shorts on, and they hugging, holding hands, and they men. He said, you know what? You think you wise. He said, but you're nothing but fools. I said it. I'll back it up. False doctrine is called Christian liberty. Well, you know, we take the liberty here. You know, you cannot go beyond what God says and call it Christian liberty. See, you can have liberty in what you write as prose writing in fiction. You can write whatever you want. You can take that liberty. But when it comes to the Bible, there's nothing called Christian liberty. You have to stay within the book. John 2, 2 John 9 and 11. Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. You run ahead, creating your own Bible, creating your own laws, creating your own stuff. He says, you're running ahead. Stay with the book. He says, and if you do that, you don't have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house. That's what he's saying. Oh, come on in. No, he said, don't take them in your house. Don't. Or welcome them. Anyone who welcomes them, he says, you share in their wicked work. You better read the Bible and start following it. Don't worry, he says, about those people who preaching false doctrine. They're not your friends. Don't welcome them. Don't be yoked together with them. He says they're working wicked. And if you want them to be your buddies and you know they out there preaching all that false doctrine, all the members of the old churches that God ain't got nothing to do with it, and you just love hanging around those friends, well, you God said you're helping those people, and you're helping to be with wicked folk. Them wicked folk. Wicked folk. Yes, I said it. I'll give you my telephone. Well, I can't give you all that. My wife lived there too, you know, so I don't want nobody hurting her. But you can come get me. I come outside. I come outside with what? The volume of the book. He had concern for another in the midst of his own personal trouble. That's what I like about this Ethiopian eunuch. Too many of us got our own problems and of our own troubles. We don't want nothing to do with you and your troubles. I got my own troubles. Talking about you can't feed your family. I can't have feed mine now. I got my own problems. I don't want to listen to your problems. Yeah. We're too much into ourselves that we don't want to listen to the problems of other people. Yeah, so this guy wasn't. He says, now, Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs who was in the king's house, guess what he did? He heard that they put Jeremiah in the dungeon. You see, we like to listen to all kind of gossip, but this man was listening to something that wasn't right. And you know, in his mind, George Washington Sr., he said, it ain't right. You know, it ain't right what they doing to that boy, you know. And they want to get on the phone and gossip there and say, well, what you going to do about it? I don't know, but it ain't right. Well, what you going to do about it? You don't have to do nothing. Go find somebody who can do something about it. That's what he did. I'm just a eunuch, a household official. I can't do anything about it, but I see a wrong that has been done, I'm going to go tell. You know, does it bother you enough? It only bothers you when it happens to your family. If my wife told me today, I killed somebody, but I don't want you to tell nobody, I'm going right there in the 3939. 3333. 3333. That's, can I help you? I'd like to report, you know, she killed somebody, she might kill me. You know? See, I care enough that if my wife is doing wrong, that I'm going to tell somebody because she broke the law. You know, this is not one of those moments where you put away your wife silently. You're wrong. There's no favors here. You can't go around snuffing people out. You know, and I know she killed somebody. Then she and I get into an argument, and she give me one of those looks like this. See, I know what that look mean. I mean, you about to be next. Do what's right when you see a wrong that's being done. Now, don't kill nobody now, you know. When the king was sitting at the gate of the Benjamin, Ebed-Melech went out of the king's house and he spoke to the king. He got work to do. But he said, I see the king out there. Ooh, I'm going out there, I'm going to tell the king. He out there sitting. This is my moment now. He told the king, somebody who could do something about it, okay? He told somebody. Listen, Jesus forgave the very people who were crucifying him. Remember he was on the cross? And he saw the centurion guards down there, and they're gambling over his coat and everything. He said, God, he told God, he asked God to forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Now, you're talking about somebody who's on the cross, dying for all humanity. He should have been just worried about himself. He's hanging between the twilight of two worlds. He's been beaten so bad that he dies before the other two malefactors. Blood is dripping. Then he gets stabbed in the side. And he's dying. His back is all beat up. Skin has been flayed, dripping off. Thorns on his head. Nails in his hands. Nails in his feet. And he got the nerve to be thinking about other people. Forgive him. And even before that, Brother Dickinson, he forgot the thief on the cross. He worrying about somebody else. Today you'll be with me in paradise. He could have said, man, look, I'm up here dying and y'all still want something from me. You stole, you were a malefactor, sorry. But he did. He still had care enough when he was worrying about, when he had his own problems, to care about somebody else. All of us got problems at some time. Every week is not filled with sunshine. We got problems. Some problems we don't tell nobody about. We suffer what? Alone. But when you're suffering alone, do you still have room for your heart when somebody comes to you? And guess what? And they suffer worse than you. Or do you join them in the pity party and say, hey, sit right here. Let's suffer together. Because I got my own problems. I got my troubles. You got yours too. Jesus says, no. I can still have room in myself to forgive somebody. Y'all better learn to forgive somebody. You think that because somebody have done you wrong and you don't want to forgive them? Well, you don't want to be at the judgment saying that you didn't forgive nobody. When God says, I forgave you for all the mess you done to me. Forgive. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. That's scripture. Value others, what? Above yourselves. Not looking to your own interests, but of you to the interests of others. That's hard for us to do. We're so selfish people that we're only looking for the gifts of what this world can give us. That's what we want. I ain't worried about you. Listen, I'm taking care of what? Number one. And I don't even know who told you you was number one. But you don't want to I'm going to get mine first, then I could help you. Well, you know what? Maybe I can give you what you're trying to get if you help me first. His concern led him to action. And that's the other thing. Some of us know where we can help. We know that there's a need to help. We know there's a need, but we don't do nothing about it. We just get on the phone and talk about, did you see? Did you see? Did you hear? Yeah. He says, but what you going to do about it? Then the king commanded Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian, saying, okay, now you came to me about it. You told me. Now, let's put you into action to do something about it. Take from here 30 men with you and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the dungeon before he dies. You see it? What you going to do about it? Here's what I want you to do. Go do it. Nah, king, I was just telling you about it. It ain't my job. I just here in the official. I ain't my job to do all that. I told you about it. Now, if he dies, it's on you. I told you about it. But are you willing to help? You willing to help me? Hey, brother, look at that. I was at your house the other day, and I see that old tree there about to fall on your house. Yeah. You might want to cut that down. I do want to cut it down. Do you mind helping me? Well, now I saw the tree, but this is your house. I ain't about to help you now and all that. Can you help me cut it down? Can you help me? He said, so he told him what to do. And guess what? He didn't say, when he told him what to do, he said, take him out of the dungeon before he died. And guess what he said? So Ebed-Melech took 30 men. He put it in action. I care. I reported it. I have concern. Now I'm going to put it into action. He took men with him, went into the house of the king under the treasury, just like he was told, took from their old cloth and old rags, and let them down by ropes into the dungeon to Jeremiah. See, people don't care about how much you tell them you love them. They care about how much you show them you love them. Yeah, they care about that. Don't let your words be just futile, in vain. Have some action behind your words. James 2 and 4 and 14 to 17 is faith without works, for faith without deeds, without work, without deeds. You can have the faith, but God said, I want to see the deeds behind it. Everybody can say they got faith. Yeah, you got faith, but I want to see the deeds behind that faith. We all got faith until we go to a country that says, I hate Christians and I'm killing them all. Y'all be on the next American Airlines coming back to America. You say, well, that's called deeds? Luke 10, 29 through 37, the Good Samaritan. Look at this man, the Good Samaritan. He wasn't just looking at the man like the rest, standing over, walking afar. He didn't want nothing to do with him. This man went and he took care of this man. Why? Because he was concerned about him. There was action behind his words. James 1 and 22, don't merely just listen to the word. He says, put it into action. See, that's when you listen to the word you've learned, you heard the word, and now you put it into action. I got $1 million I want to give you. You keep telling me that every week. When you going to give it to me? See, I want some action behind those words. Give me the money. And then James 4:17 said, now what if this is the Ethiopian eunuch? If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, guess what? He didn't say it's a sin. He said it's a sin for them. You know what's right to do, and you don't do it. He says it's a sin for you. You just made it a sin. I know it was wrong for them to put that man in there because they're wicked and they're lying on him. And I know it and don't do nothing about it. He said that's a sin to you. That's a sin. Oh, I heard what they said about him. He did the right thing, but they're lying on him. You know, he's going to be put in jail, and he's going to go to the electric chair. And you know what? But I know the truth, but I ain't going to get involved. And you don't say anything? Don't tell me you have a light conscience like that. And the man goes to the electric chair, or he dies. You know, you got to stand up for what is right. Like God and Jesus stood up for us. He says it's a sin if you know it and you don't do anything about it. See, the man went the extra mile. This Ethiopian eunuch went the extra mile. Not only did he see, hear, he went and told, and then he did something about it. And then he told him what to need to do with the ropes. I want you to be taken care of when I pull you out of here. So take these clothes and put it up under your arm so it won't hurt you. I don't want you just to be pulled out. I want you to be taken care of when I pull you out of this hole. Then he bade Malik the Ethiopian said to Jeremiah, please put these clothes and rags under your armpits, under the ropes. And Jeremiah did. Why? He said, because I care about you. I don't want you to be hurt. Do we care enough? Do we take the extra mile to see that somebody that we're concerned about is taken care of? You see, do we do that? Because we need to. We have to. And he did what he could to make his rescue comfortable. I am reminded of the Good Samaritan when we talk about this and how he went the extra mile. He took him, put him on his horse, took him to an inn, and gave the innkeeper some money and said that if he need anything else, go ahead and take care of it. But if the money run out, when I come back, I'll pay you the money. He went the extra mile. He could have just took care of him on the ground and said, well, you know, I'm going to stiff some money into your pockets and I'm going to treat you as well as I could, but I got to go somewhere. No, wherever he was going, he diverted his travel, put the man on a horse, cared about him, took him to an inn, had somebody look after him and paid him, and said, if you run out, I'll be back. You know, maybe he was a trustworthy person who probably was there before because they let him do it, knowing that he's going to come back and pay him whatever was over the cost of taking care of that guy. Oh, have mercy. Just as in the days of Jeremiah, God needs people of courage and compassion today. Compassion today. We don't have enough of that. A lot of people will be in better shape if we had compassion for other people. Beyond our self-interest. You got to care about just more than yourself. You got to care about more than just your immediate family. You got to care about the lost soul of people. People are going to go to hell and they don't know anything that they need to know about being saved. There's so many people out there who are telling them lies about how to be saved and that there is no God. You know, we got to be caring enough. Would you have stood up for Jeremiah if you were one of his contemporaries? Would you stood up like this Ethiopian eunuch, or would you have just what? Mind your own business? Would you just done that? Will you stand up for Jesus today? Say, yeah, I will. No, don't lie. Will you stand up for Jesus today? All of us know ourselves better than we know each other. You know where you have flaws and where you treat other people, or in the lack of how you treat other people. You know people who are lost. Will you stand up for Jesus and help them to find Jesus? Or are you too busy with your self-interest? Or are you so concerned with your own posterity, with your own life, that you're not afraid, that you're so afraid to lose it in the course of standing up for what is right? Everybody loves a hero as long as it ain't me. Will you stand up for him? I love this Ethiopian Eunuch. I'm going to go back and I'm going to study it more, but he had his time, his little space in the history that God said, I'm putting him in here because there's something that Brother Woods and other preachers need to say about this man in this age so that we can follow him. Now, the question is, as we stand and sing a verse of our invitation song, will you stand up for Jesus today as we sing our invitation song?
So